Good evening, everyone. Shall we begin? I understand Councilman Levin is here. Would you like to begin our testimony?
Hi, everybody. I'll keep my remarks brief in light of the extraordinary number of people that are here today to testify. I'm Stephen Levin. I'm council member representing this area of downtown Brooklyn. I also represent Greenpoint, Williamsburg, Boerum Hill, downtown Brooklyn, Brooklyn Heights. And I'm here to advocate for a 0% rent freeze this year. That I think that it's important that tenants throughout New York City get a little bit of relief. I represent a neighborhood like Greenpoint or Williamsburg, which is a rapidly gentrifying area, and I have seen everything in the book when it comes to ways in which rent-stabilized units have been increased in terms of their in terms of the rents and MCIs that might not be necessary, and I'm seeing a tremendous amount of pressure placed on senior citizens and their ability to stay in the communities that they've raised their children in and would like to stay in, and they come to my office asking for help. And so I think that this year it's absolutely vital that we send a strong message as a city of New York to tenants to say that we have heard you. Over the last 10 years, they have seen increases year after year that have put a major strain and burden on their quality of life. And it's the right thing to do to have a rent freeze this year. And then, honestly, next year we need to go and make sure in Albany that we strengthen the rent laws and that we're doing everything we can to repeal vacancy decontrol and protect more New Yorkers because the free market has put a tremendous amount of pressure on them, and that's not who we should be as a city and who we should aspire to be as a city. So we need to make sure that we're protecting tenants here. And thank you very much for the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Okay, so I'm going to call 4 people at once, and so we can begin a line and move efficiently to make sure everyone is heard. Rosalind Williams, then Eddie Radovic, Jean Folks, and Gregory Bronner. So Rosalind Williams, Eddie Radovic, Jean Folks, and Gregory Bronner.
Hi, my name is Rosalind, and I want to say that I'm a born and raised Brooklynite.
Welcome.
And when I went to college, I remember students, friends of mine wouldn't even come to Brooklyn. What was it, Bridge and Tunnel? I mean, they didn't even come to Brooklyn. I just feel right now that Brooklyn is just wide open for development. I've been in an 8-unit apartment for 8 years, and as we speak right now, I have been harassed and been pushed out. They did demolition around me. And of course, I couldn't stay longer because they took my heat and hot water and just turned it off. I had my things there and it was stolen. Okay, and I'm sure, and this is how they harassed me. This is in Fort Greene. I call it the end of Fort Greene, Lafayette and Clawson and South Portland over there. But this is what I want to say about Brooklyn now. It's like a pioneer. Everybody's coming and taking advantage, just coming in and developing every little place, every little sidewalk. When will we get the opportunity to have some say for all of the development, all these rich people that are coming in and taking over? We need that kind of strength to be able to say, hey, we want to stop it. There's enough housing in Brooklyn for everyone. Now we got these high rises and there are a lot of people being pushed out. What happened to that residential Brooklyn? Thank you.
Eddie Radovic.
Your security people downstairs, coming people, that the hearing is done. The people are waiting. There is somebody waiting, not to come upstairs because the hearing is done.
So thank you for letting us know, and we'll make sure that the staff goes and tells people that they can obviously still come in because the hearing is still happening. So thank you for letting us know. I didn't realize that was happening.
The hearing can't close. I haven't spoken. Start?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Welcome.
Hello, my name is Edie from Sunset Park, Brooklyn. I own a small home, which technically makes me a landlord. However, I am here to represent and hopefully encourage a rent freeze. And the reason I am is because I know what prices are. I know what they are. Taxes, insurance, which in and of itself will require many hearings to figure out what the books are on that one. Why the insurance, the taxes, the water, the sewer, all of that is going up. I mean, it's crazy, but that's a separate hearing. However, I am seeing too many tenants being squeezed out by high rents and making the neighborhood a rich man's playground. New York will lose its diversity. Many landlords are capitalizing on this situation, using fear to intimidate tenants with the hope of clearing out buildings and bringing in high-rent tenants. Where do these people go? This is why a rent freeze is necessary, and a resolution as to how things can progress after the rent freeze, with landlords being clearer about what their bills are, what their profits are, and I'm all for profit. This is America. I mean, it was 10 minutes ago. You never know the way things are going, because nothing is stable anymore. However, if you're Bill Gates and you want to sell a piece of software for $10,000 and you want to buy that, that's great and that's fine. But when you start intimidating people in their homes and expecting them to not know from day to day when you're going to manufacture lies to get them scared to get rid of them, or just intimidate them so that they have to take off time from work to go to court, this is just completely wrong, okay? And New York will no longer be New York anymore. It will squeeze out all the people that have given it its great character, diversity, and gentrification is going to make it into a toilet, and rich people are eventually going to say, we don't want to be here. They'll go to the Hamptons, and what are we going to have? Thank you. Rent free.
So Jean Folks, Gregory Bonner, Maxine Zeifman, and then
Good evening.
Paul Cousin.
My name
Hello.
is Jean Folks, and I'm from Flatbush Tenants Coalition. I live in Ditmas Park, 380 East 18th Street. And I have lived there since 1977. When I moved into the apartment, it was a beauty. This landlord bought the apartment 11 years ago. We had problems in there, and he promised me he would make it into a Fifth Avenue apartment. Well, now he has made it into a Fifth Avenue slum. The rents are crazy now. He harassed a tenant to get her out. She fixed up the apartment on her own, with her own money. He got her out, and I'm going around the building finding out who has problems in their apartments. Horrible. He's renting to people coming from abroad, coming from other countries. They don't know the rent laws. They don't get a rider with their rent. One lady, I said, where's your lease? She said this. She showed me her rent bill. She didn't know what a lease was. And I'm trying to educate these people. That same apartment that the tenant repaired, now he's renting that one-bedroom apartment for $1,300, which he never repaired. He gave them a vacancy increase. And another tenant on my floor, he said he's paying $1,020 for a studio apartment. But above him, the studio, 8 men live in that studio because they cannot afford to pay the rent. I can understand hardships, but landlords are talking about hardships. We are human beings too. We don't get increases. We pay the same taxes. We have the same burdens that they have. Give us a break. It's time. It's always been the landlords getting an increase. Please, Rent Guidelines Board, Bill de Blasio, please, it's time for the tenants. One time, if even this time. Thank you.
Gregory Bonner, Maxine Zeifman, Paul Cousin, and then Redanova Andrews. Mr. Bronner? Oh, hold on 1 second. Mr. Bronner has to come first. No. Okay. Mr. Bronner's first, yes.
Thank you. I happen to be a landlord, with Manhattan property. I just want to show you two pieces of paper. One, the New York City tax bill of $147,000 for the year 2012 to 2013, and one I just received for $171,000, a $25,000 increase roughly over 2 years. Where am I supposedly get the money? Maybe I should go to Mayor de Blasio and ask him to write out a check if you give a zero increase. On top of which, like I have a tenant in my building, it's Manhattan, between Midtown Manhattan on 50th Street, and she's paying a rent control of $340 a month. On top of which, I just had to make a repair bill for over $2,000.
Can we please let him speak? We can't hear him, and it's important that we hear everyone.
I just had a repair bill to electric safeties for $3,000, which I repaired. Where's the money coming from? The only money can come from as an increase of some sort from this board. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Eichmann? And then Paul Cousin, Redanova Andrews, and Leslie Jones.
My name is Maxine Zafman, and I've been working with all the tenants organizations for 16 years, and I am so happy with this new board, because before for the 16 years of Giuliani and Bloomberg, the board was all real estate. I mean, the chair and the public appointees were real estate, the banks, or Wall Street. And the vote was constantly 7-2. The hikes were every single year. Now, I know in Westchester, I was just speaking to someone in legal aid, 3 years ago, the same RGB that has exactly the same managing expense, operating expense, had a rent freeze because they had a fair board, and this board has not been fair until you, and I'm so happy to see you because you're so different from what we had. And the same was true of Nassau. Nassau's rent, RGB was giving much less increases and much more reasonable. That board was fair. So we have had a history of such big increases in New York City that have pushed people out of their homes into shelters. And it just is a heartbreak for me because it feels as if I'm living in India. When I was a little girl, I used to think India had people homeless in the street. And now we've had in the last 20 years, 20,000 more, 53,000 homeless. And we not only have 20% of the children in America that are going to bed hungry. We have whole families that are being pushed out of their homes because those terrible increases in New York City and are in shelters. And you can imagine the lack of stability for those families. It's just a total heartbreak what has happened this history.
Thank you for testifying.
So I am I think the difference has to be made. The small landlords
Ms. Eichmann, we really appreciate your testimony.
No, I'm just going to say the small landlords have hardship, but the real estate lobby is a great, big, powerful, rich lobby, and they do not need an increase.
Thank you, Ms. Eichmann.
Those little landlords maybe do, but they do not. They do not
Thank you for your testimony.
Any increase. They are making profits.
Thank you. We have to make sure we can hear other people too. Thank you so much. Paul Kozan.
Good evening, board. Happy to see you all here, and we're hoping for the best.
Ma'am, can you tell?
Hello, can you hear me?
I want to make sure. Sure that.
My name is Redanova Andrews, and I rent. living in the Flatbush area. That was once East Flatbush, now it's Lefferts Garden. There's a lot of changes around here. Private investors, huge building, the neighborhood are changing rapidly. Now, I'm a mother of 5. I don't make a lot. I have 3 jobs, actually. I can only do 2 because there's not enough hours in the day to do 3. And it's a struggle every day. Now, I feel bad for the small owners, landlords. I really do feel for you. But what about the big ones who are sucking up little money from people like myself, just taking it? You got to pay it regardless. And if you don't, they take you to court. Judge don't listen because you don't have a lawyer. You're getting kicked out. You're getting evicted. Now, food. I remember the days when I used to go in the supermarket and go with $20 and pick up good stuff. Now I have to resort to sugary food for my children, and it's not healthy. Why? Because the money goes to the rent, and what's left is to pick up cheap things just to make ends meet. It's not good. Where we live like animals. Somebody mentioned earlier about the mildew on the wall. They come with some bleach, they wipe it out. 3 months later, it's there again. We don't get paint jobs. In the winter, no heat, no hot water. This has to stop. But yet, they don't want us to get a rent freeze, they don't want us to get a rollback, and they constantly every year get increases on top of increases. No. No. I would like for my children to go on vacation too. Okay? I would like for my children to go to soccer, basketball game, swimming, but they can't because I can't afford it. Your children been doing that. You've been going on lavish vacation. We can't do that because we got to work and give you all our money. Come on. Come on. Let's be human here, landlords. Landlords, the big ones. Let's be human here. Okay? Have a heart. Have a heart. I would like to buy good vegetables and good fruits for my children and have good affordable housing, not to be pushed out. In my neighborhood, it's changing. It's changing. Right next door to me, a 2-bedroom is $2,500. And the only thing new in there is a washing machine and a dishwasher. Seriously, I can't afford that. No time soon. I don't make enough. Like I said, I have 3 jobs. I can only do 2. It's not enough hours in the day. We would love to get a rent freeze today. I would really appreciate it.
Thank you for sharing your story. Leslie Jones, Gladys Pugla, Linda Williams, and Jesse Hamilton. Leslie Jones comes first, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
As a small property owner in Brooklyn, Bed-Stuyvesant, I am respectfully requesting that a rent increase be granted. The cost to maintain the property has soared. Insurance has increased over $500. Property taxes has increased, and the winter last year was horrific. My all bill last year was $18,000. I'm still paying off on my credit card. The water bill is ridiculous, of course, and landlords don't get any assistance. My roof needs repair, but I don't have the money. I'm using my tax returns, which is not enough to even pay for the roof. The side of the building needs to be repointed. I don't have the money. I collect $547.27 rent, $725, and $1,000. I have a 6-bedroom apartment, 6 apartments. 3 apartments was destroyed by tenants, and I don't even have the money to fix it. My relief going to Civil Court is no relief because they don't have money to pay, okay? So that's a wash. That is totally a wash. I'm in the process of trying to get a loan, which I should not have to be getting a loan at the stage of my age. You understand? This is ridiculous. I find it ironic that the small property owners, that the city allowed developers to come in and build and take away the neighborhood. But yet the small properties owners, who are the ones who supplement and take care of the tenants and do the city, state, and federal government job, don't get any type of relief. I know what your position here is and I know what your job is, but I'm saying you have to give some type of consideration. And I'm not a big landlord, I'm a small property. And the trouble is with what's happening in Brooklyn is that they're being phased out because all my friends who are landlords, They took their $2 million and they left. And that's what's going to happen. People are going to sell out, and then all these people here are not going to have anywhere to go because the developers are going to take over everything. And I think you should have to make some type of assessment to say, okay, if you're making X amount of money, I should get an increase of at least 1 to 3, 5 something percent. If you're a big landlord, then you give 0. But if you're collecting low rents like this here, it's your job to assess to say, okay, if you're in this type of grouping, you should get this type of increase. You just can't say a flat no. You cannot say a flat no.
This is hard, and thank you for sharing your story.
Good evening. My name is Gladys Buglia. I'm a tenant, and I live in Bushwick area, and I'm a member of Make the Borough, New York. I'm here to say that I live in Bushwick for 16 years, and I have lived in Williamsburg for 10 years. I was moved out of my apartment in Williamsburg to find a better place for my children. Now, I have my second landlord, who is a headache, for not saying the wrong word, who's trying to beat all the families, Latino families, or all African Americans from his buildings, to bring just white people or young people. They're not renting to no families with children. They prefer young people with dogs. Even with 2 or 3 dogs, they rent the apartments. Okay? They don't want children. Now, there's a landlord that say that, oh, the way we dress. I said, I got these earrings. They're fake. It was sent from my country. My family sent it for me. I got these clothes from my second-hand store because I can't afford to go to Macy's or JCPenney. I got these nails painted. My daughter gave me as a gift for Father's Day because I'm a mother and a father for my children. So, now, you telling me that you're going to make more increases. I work for the city. My salary hasn't been up for over 13 years. 13 years. And the increases that I got for rent, for my salary increases was $500. My rent increases is been matching up to $500. I can't afford it no more. And the sharing the apartment, yes, we must. We have to, because we can't afford these rents. I got an elderly person, 85 years old, who was thrown out of her apartment. I rented her less than what she was paying over there because she can't afford it because Social Security doesn't give her enough. And I'm helping her so she don't have to be in the street. Okay? Now you're telling me you're going to raise my rent? I have to increase her rent too. But I'm not going to do that. You know why? Because I love that old lady. And I'm going to keep having her with the same rate until she goes for somewhere else to go. Thank you.
Linda Williams, Jesse Hamilton, Vivian Burns, and Michael Gillette. Ms. Williams?
Yes. Good evening. My name is Linda Williams, and I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. I've been in the same apartment for 32 years. I've listened to the landlords and I've listened to the tenants, and I would like to sympathize with the landlords, but I have empathy for the tenants because I am one. My landlord has 50 buildings or more. Every year when the lease is up, he can send it in the mail and make sure you receive it. When it's time to paint your apartment, by law, he knows when he's supposed to do it. You have to ask him 2 or 3 times. I've had tenants in my building who have been there for 16 years. Just a month ago, one was evicted. She went to court. She had the money which she owed the landlord, which was only $3,800. He told the judge he refused to take it, and she was out within 72 hours with a 14-year-old child. I'm saying that in Brooklyn, New York, in Bronx, Manhattan, we need 0 increase in rent. We need a rent freeze. It's unacceptable that landlords can be making money and not putting it back into the buildings where we live. We're human beings and we want a quality of life. He has a quality or she has a quality of life. We deserve it too. We need a rent freeze.
Jesse Hamilton, Vivian Burns, Michael Gillette.
Okay. Good evening and buenos noches. My name is Jesse Hamilton. I'm the 20th Senatorial District Director and attorney for our office. And our catchment area goes from Sunset Park, Crown Heights, Flatbush, East Flatbush, and Brownsville. And every day we have seniors coming into our office who are saying, Mr. Hamilton, it's hard for me to make ends meet, that more than 50% of my income is going to rent. And in Ebbsfield, we have landlords who are taking seniors to court for miscellaneous expenses for $50, which is a form of harassment. We have landlords making improvements to properties and giving MCI increases, and people are getting mold in their apartment and having hazardous conditions. For the best of me, I don't understand why you have to pay for an MCI increase, and when it's done and completed and paid for, you must continue paying for it. It's like when you get, well, as Marietta said, you get a refrigerator with the MCI increase and you pay for it for the rest of your life. You're better off just buying a new refrigerator every 10 years yourself and doing so. So I am wholeheartedly against any rent increases for people in our community. People are having a hard time. You have people now, 2 families living in 1 apartment. And I just hope in the future for the panel, everybody should be living in a rent-stabilized building to understand what people are living through. People are living through hard times right now. So I say to the residents in our community, we're having a forum on June 26th at Full Gospel Assembly. We're going to have judges, landlord-tenant judges, to know your rights. Because a person who knows their rights knows what to do. You should not be intimidated when you go to court. Okay, and so what we do once a month, we have judges come out.
Sir,
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back to you, darling. Back to you. I got you. So I just said, we want to make sure that tenants have their rights secured. If they want to call our office, it's 718-284-4700, 718-284-4700, and God bless you all. And no rent increase, please. Thank you.
Vivian Burns, Ms. Burns, and then Michael Gillette and
Good evening, Chair, members, landlords, and tenants. But I'm here to say that, well, let me put on my glasses. I'm a little nervous now. When I start talking, I won't be. Thank you. Okay, there's several incidents with me, for one. I'm a tenant of 263 Parkside, used to be Flatbush, but it's now called Lefferts Garden. 47 years, off and on. Yes, I am rent controlled. I pay less than $200. Reason because I stand before judges, arbitrators, and I fight and I fought for my rights. But I'm here to also represent tenants who are not able to fight for their rights or who don't know their rights. And that always seemed to be a problem with my landlord, who has said I'm a hoarder, my apartment doesn't look good, she harasses me, she intimidates me. It came to a point where I had to spend $22,000 just to repair my apartment. Yes, I got permission to do so, but now after all these years, now she wants to throw me out. Finally, after 30 years, I finally got a letter from DACR, which was on their side, my landlord's side for all these years, but because all the writing I've done and the crying, the tears and excuses, I had to take off from work to get things done. They really took the time out, and I thank Letitia James' office for taking the time to hear me out, although my writing skills was like off whack. That's because I was nervous. I thought so much was going on. 14 minutes to go, 6 minutes to go, and I couldn't just do it, so I had just wrote the way I wrote, and they understood, and they came out, and they helped me. So I'm just saying, I am for the rent decrease, 0%. Yes, it will go up eventually, but you got to do your job, and it's MCI. It is so confusing to others. As a tenant, a president association, a lot of tenants in the building are confused with that. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm going to take it back from Mr. Jesse. He said, why does it have to be a long time, ongoing process? I bought my appliances in my apartment, but yet, when I went to DACR and I look at the rent history, the landlord said she purchased this, she purchased that, and we had all these services in the building that was up to par. Well, she lied, and I want you to say to all of you, stand for your rights. We are all here together, unite together, fight together. Thank you all.
Thank you for your testimony. So Michael Gillette, Marie LaRoche.
Hi. Good evening, Chairwoman Gotzel and the rest of the board. Thank you for this opportunity to hear my testimony. My name is Michael Gillette, and I live in Sunset Park, Brooklyn, in an 8-unit apartment building. Oh, I'm sorry. What? Now? Better? Okay.
You can set it in there.
Okay. All right. I'll slow down. Okay. So I live in an 8-unit apartment building in Sunset Park, Brooklyn since 2006. And I want to stress to you that rent-stabilized tenants are a very diverse group. Not all of us have lived in our apartments for decades. Some of us are younger adults like myself who are working 9 to 5 each day while also trying to self-finance our educations. I'm fortunate enough to have found a rent-stabilized apartment, which is really the only reason I can afford to live in the city. When I moved into my apartment in 2006, my rent was $11.85. It has since skyrocketed over $500 to $1,700. My landlord has found every and any excuse to push through major capital improvements to DHCR, all of which I was the only one who took the time to challenge, but they were approved anyway. And I must say DHCR is a dysfunctional landlord-oriented agency. Even though my landlord received J51 tax abatements at the same time, which was against the rules. I'm also paying for individual apartment improvements, which have further increased the burden of my rent. Landlords are using a number of tactics to raise rents with the goal of pushing units toward the high rent threshold and removal from the rent stabilization protection. Over 1 month, I received an increase of over $200, which was because of the last 2-year increase of 7.75 and also the MCI rent increase. I cannot afford any sort of rent increase. I would like to strongly urge you to consider a 0.5% increase for 1 year and 2-year leases. Also, in the Borough of Brooklyn, landlords have enjoyed a net operating income of over $357 for every month for every rent-stabilized unit that they own. And considering the financial hardships I've outlined so far, please advise a 0% increase. And wages for rent-stabilized tenants like myself have remained largely stagnant, while MCI increases and RGB rent increases have skyrocketed. With Brooklyn becoming even more commercial and people being displaced, and the large amount of increases that have already been approved in previous years, please impart a 0% increase as you make this decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gillette. Marie LaRoche, Hazel Robinson, Valerie Coley, Marie LaRoche. She's coming? Yeah. And then Hazel Robinson and Valerie Coley.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, good evening to everybody. My name is Marie LaRoche. I'm a tenant. Thank you to give me the opportunity to talk on behalf on all of the tenants. I know what I'm talking about. I've been living there. I live at 1155 East 35th Street. I lived there for 20 years. For the past 2 years, I've been fighting for repairs. Until today, I'm still fighting. There's still violation in my apartment. Landlord refused to do the repair. The only thing that interesting them of doing is kick the long-term tenant out and get the new people to raise the rent, make pay higher rent. I was witness of a tenant throwing out with children. They closed their door. I've been there, still there, because I'm a fighter. I'm still fighting for repair until today. I've been in court for more than a year with the landlord. 2 years fighting for repairs. Until today, I have hole in my apartment, mice coming out, watches. If you see the old cabinet in the kitchen, they don't want to do the repair. So they're talking about increase. Why they should reward all the landlord all the time and the tenant deserve nothing. They don't want to do repair. They refuse to do repair. So what I'm asking is zero increase and rent freeze for the tenant. The tenant deserve a break. I've been there. I'm suffering from that. From the last 3 months, because I was in court with the landlord, they want him to do repair. If you see the way I was living for 3 months, all the debris there, they to put only one person to do the work. I've been suffering. Then every morning you have to go to work. The landlord made me live in the apartment for 5 months, taking water from the kitchen to take a shower every day. After they come and break my apartment because the city forced them to do the repair, they make me live there for 4 months. All the toilet was break, the wall, after they put the water, for 4 months until they come and fix it. Until today, there are more coming back. They don't do a good repair. They don't do a sloppy work, temporary work, not permanent work, because they want you to leave. That's a type of strategy they use to kick you out, to harassing you to go out and take other people to raise the rent and get more money.
Thank you for your testimony, Ms. Marosh.
Why are you rewarding them?
Thank you for your testimony.
I'm begging you, guiding board, not only, I'm asking you, I'm begging you, 0% increase, rent freeze. Thank you.
Hazel Robinson, Valerie Coley, Carol Southwick. Hazel Robinson first, then Valerie Coley, and then Carol Southwick. Hazel Robinson, Valerie Coley. Thank you. Carol Southwick. Tracy Robertson.
What's your name?
What's your name?
Valerie.
Wait, was Valerie? Was your name called, ma'am? Oh, Valerie.
Yeah.
Come on up, Valerie. You were next.
Sorry.
Sorry, one second.
That's all right.
Thank you, Ms. Coley. If your name is called and the second person comes up quicker, you still get to go first. So just make sure you let me know that you're coming up.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm a member of the Flatbush Coalition. This is my daughter, Jennifer. I live at 1 St. Paul's Court. I've lived there 35 years. I'm a senior citizen. What they've been trying to do is to force me out. Stop. So the thing is, they've been taking me to court. You want me to call your name? I mean, you can't hear me? I can't hear me. Okay. Yeah, so the thing is, I've been there 35 years, and I raised 3 children there. I've had a lot of problems over the years with previous landlords trying to get us out. What this new landlord, this current landlord's been doing, he's been taking me to court. Like every other year, he takes me to court saying that I owe him money. So I go to the court, along with a member of the coalition. And I proved to them, I have all my statements, I don't owe them any rent. So it goes out. A year later, they do the same thing. Now, the last time they did was just several months ago. Now what they're doing, every single month, they get their rent. Every single month, they're now sending me a letter saying that I owe X amount of money along with fees. Okay, then, watch the clock. Then they send me, now they're sending me, my lease is effective until 2015. Now they're sending me new leases. They sent me, a couple of months ago, they sent me a lease. I call the office, they never answer the phone. Again, a couple of weeks ago, they sent me another lease with a notice that if I don't sign it, they're going to take legal action. Yeah, so anyway, this is what they're doing. It's a lot of harassment going on. Not only that, I mean, they have stuff like they pile the garbage under my window. I have to deal with the stink that comes in from the garbage. You know, all kinds of stuff. But mostly, it's about getting me out because I have a big apartment. So they want to get me out so that they can increase the rent to like $25, close to $3,000. You know, and I think that's wrong. So I'm for the rent freeze and the 0%.
Thank you for your testimony.
You did great.
Ms. South, here you are. Thank you. And then Tracy Robertson. That's me. And so you know Carol Southwick? Okay, Tracy Robertson, okay. Trey Myers, and Bernice Evelyn.
Okay. I want to say good evening to the board.
Good evening.
My name is Tracy Robertson. I was born in Brooklyn. I was raised in Brooklyn. I went to Brooklyn Tech. I love Brooklyn. I love Brooklyn because we had trees, we had grass. Manhattan is a concrete jungle. I hated Manhattan. Okay, I don't see Brooklyn anymore. Okay, I see a lot of buildings being put up, things that I used to know are no longer there. I mean, I was lost one day when I was walking down the street. I didn't know where I was. Okay, I'm here on behalf of my mother. My mom is Mary Robertson. She's 85 years old. She moved into her present residence in 1989 after this building was renovated. Since she has moved in that building, there's been a hole in the wall. They have not repaired it. For 15 years, we've been complaining about this hole in the wall. It is still not repaired. Mice come in and out of this hole. I've done my best to board it up. They still find their way in. They have an insect problem as well. There are wood floors. They're not refinished. There are bugs coming through the floor. My mother is also a native New Yorker. She grew up here. She worked here all her years. She shouldn't have to live like this. Recently, a new landlord bought the building. Unbeknownst to anyone in the building was sold. The new landlord comes. He sends my mother a statement, and my mother is meticulous every month with all her bills. He sends a statement saying that he did not receive the May or June rent. He bought the building in mid-May. Okay, at least that's what they tell us. Luckily, my mother keeps everything in order. I was able to take the copies of her canceled checks and send them. She has been trying to call. They do not answer the phone. She cannot rectify whether they received the fax or not. Okay, or the only thing we can do is wait till next month to see what the statement says. It's like a mystery. There are a lot of things wrong with that building. The front door lock has been broken for over a year. At least that's when I started keeping track of it. Over a year. Every night or every time I'm at my mother's building, I will go downstairs, I will walk around the building, I will check the lock. If there's something going on with it, I try my best to fix it so that it closes and no one can get in. Painting, my mother has not had a paint job in I don't know how long. I don't know how long she hasn't received a paint job. There are also other things going on in that building. The floors are dirty. There's garbage on the stairwells. They don't have proper maintenance staff. They have people coming in and fixing up the apartments who are not certified. They don't have any kind of anything to come in and start fixing up these apartments.
So the conditions sound really deplorable, and as you know, this board doesn't have direct authority over this, but if you would like to leave your mother's name and some information, this really does sound deplorable.
There are other people from the building here that are having similar problems.
So again, if this sounds like a situation that should be passed along, because it really sounds awful, because as you know, we make one decision and one decision only. Okay.
Well, also, they're proposing increases that have been given to other tenants in her building. When their new lease comes, they are talking to me and talking to others about how they have these increases all of a sudden, and they don't know what's going on here, and that the tenant, the landlord, is doing unlawful things.
So again, there may be overcharges as well. So it sounds like there are a whole number of things going on. Let's get a piece. We'll get
including illegal subdivisions of the empty apartments.
So we're going to get a document, and if people
So that he
would
can
like to
raise the
sign it, we
rents.
will pass it along. Because again, it sounds deplorable, and thank you for sharing the story.
Okay,
And it
well,
really
I'm
does
here on my
sound-
mother's behalf. My mother's 85 years old. She collects Social Security. She has to still, in addition to all her rent, she has to pay an additional $200 for her prescriptions. She's only received a 1% increase in her Social Security
again,
amount that she gets, okay? And she's one of the first tenants in that building. I don't think she should be treated this way, especially since we were born and raised here.
She shouldn't.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Again, I want to say zero increase on the rent and the rent freeze.
Trey Myers, Bernice Evelyn, Dave Powell, and A.M. Goodridge. Trey Myers? Trey Myers? Hey, okay.
All right, hello.
Good evening.
First of all, I want to thank everybody who came out tonight. You can really see that this means a lot to people. They stayed. I also want to thank you guys, everyone, for trying to keep an objective perspective through this seemingly complicated situation. First of all, I just want to say that people who are here right now have been here before. They've come to boards, they've come to the government asking for help. They haven't gotten any, but they keep coming back. That's faith. It's time for their faith to be rewarded, all right? 0%. Now, for the landlords, I don't see a lot of them who spoke, but, maybe this isn't as big a deal for them. But for the landlords who spoke about how good a job they're doing, I don't commend them for doing their job. That's what they're supposed to do, all right? If you own a building, you should keep it up. Plain. These people, they speak about loss, they speak about getting squeezed, they speak about hardship. 80 hours a week is hardship, losing your family to be moved out where they live, that you can't see them anymore, losing your community, that's hardship. The fact is, the landlords who talked about taking care of their buildings at this point, that's extraneous, okay? We are in a crisis period right now. People need relief, okay? Am I wrong? Come on now, come on. So we ask for some allegiance. We ask for some allegiance from you all at this point, some allegiance. Because we've been here. We've been through this before, over the years, over the generations. We ask for a little bit of solidarity from the people who are supposed to be protecting us. Thank you.
Bernice Evelyn, Dave Powell, A.M. Goodridge. Ms. Evelyn, Bernice Evelyn. Bernice Evelyn, Dave Powell. Then after Dave Powell, A.M. Goodridge and Margaret Dewsbury.
Good evening, board members.
Good evening.
Good evening, Brooklyn. My name is Dave Powell, and I'm the Director of Organizing and Advocacy at the Fifth Avenue Committee and also Neighbors Helping Neighbors. Our joint organizations serve the neighborhoods of Gowanus, Park Slope, and Sunset Park in a number of capacities, including tenant organizing and tenant advocacy. And in that latter capacity, our organizations prevent an estimated 400 evictions annually. I make that pronouncement not as an act of self-congratulation, but to make clear to the members of the board that we have a frontline view to the causes and effects of the joint housing affordability and displacement crises here in Brooklyn. I am here before the RGB in this capacity to request that the board roll back rent. An increase of 0%, while historic, would not fulfill the mandate of this board to realistically consider the economic realities of tenants in setting rents. By now you've heard from a number of experts to this regard, including the former RGB director, Timothy Collins, who's provided data as to why rent should be rolled back. I will not repeat that testimony. Instead, I want to speak to you about your role in preserving the ethnic, racial, and economic diversity of my hometown, which is Brooklyn, New York. Every day, my colleagues and I are witnesses to tragedies at both the household and community scale. For all the evictions we are able to prevent, there are thousands more that are simply beyond our capacity or that of any legal service organization. Beyond court-mandated evictions, we bear witness to the displacement of a very large group of unseen Brooklynites who recognize that because of high rents, their displacement is imminent, and who leave their homes before a marshal notice is ever slapped on their door. In hearing testimony from the Brooklynites before you this evening, please take a moment to reflect on those of us who have already been displaced from Brooklyn.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Powell.
I just want to summarize by saying in my testimony, which is written and which I have handed in, I've explained a little bit about the trauma that is faced by households and by the communities at large that we represent. And I just want to say that in this era of chronic displacement, the RGB bears both historic and contemporary responsibility for this.
Mr. Powell, we have 40 more people to hear. If you'd like to share any written testimony, we'd love to see it, but we have lots of other people to hear from. Thank you.
Mr. Powell, I just have a quick question. What would it mean for the people that you work with on a daily basis if we have an increase this year?
I mean, I think as every tenant, as every legal service provider, and as every tenant advocate and social service provider knows, literally for every percentage point that goes up, there will be more people displaced. We don't have numbers for that because we don't track that on the level that we should as a city, and that's a shame. But we squarely believe that this board, for every percentage that it goes up, puts more of us either out in the street or out of the state. So as I say, and I understand technically that a rollback is not on the table, and I'd like to flag that for next year, that maybe that can actually be proposed in the proposal stage. But a rent freeze would bring relief for sure. At a minimum, it would hold static, I think, some of the displacement that we see rampantly occurring in rent-stabilized housing specifically.
Thank you, Mr. Powell.
So just a quick question, Mr. Powell. How many units does Fifth Avenue Committee own of rent-stabilized housing?
Thank you for asking. I mean, we stand before you as those, Pratt Area Community Council, as New Settlement Apartments in the Bronx, as owners of rent-stabilized housing. We own over 600 units of mostly rent-stabilized housing, and we have another 600 in the pipeline. So we know what it takes to run housing. We know what it costs. When you are mission-driven instead of profit-driven, you can actually keep your costs down. And I think it's no small thing that community development corporations would come up here and say that, because it does affect our bottom line. But we recognize that we can't build ourselves out of this crisis. You need to control housing prices. That's the mandate of this board. It's not to guarantee profit. It's to protect tenants. That is the mandate of the rent stabilization law and of this board. I just want to share a photo with all of you of somebody who agreed with us back in 2008, 2009 when he was a public advocate. This is a picture of then public advocate Bill de Blasio on the steps of City Hall with us.
Mr. Powell.
And our members of Inquilinos Unidos calling for a rent freeze.
Thank you, Mr. Powell.
Excuse me, sir.
Final question from the board, Mr. Powell.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi. Thank you for your testimony.
Can you tell me a little bit about your organization, and is it a nonprofit? How does your organization work?
We're a 501c3 nonprofit. Neighbors Helping Neighbors is an affiliate of ours in the Sunset Park. Our sister organization is Brooklyn Workforce Innovations. So we're sort of 3 organizations under one umbrella and one roof.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Miss-
Freeze the rent.
Mr. Goodridge, and then Margaret Dewsbury and Kurt Thompson.
All right, I want to thank God, thank RGB for it. The tenant and the landlord need to step into the play and join the movement. My name is Am Goodridge. I'm a Crown Heights resident, also occupy Wall Street, Occupy People Power Assembly, and now the Crown Heights Tenant Union. And I've been through in my experience over the past 10 years, see a lot of also the displacement that have been through, home being foreclosed by these big fat mortgage lenders. All of this are being like terrified our neighborhood. Face the facts. Over the last 10 years, but I see a drive-through center of Brooklyn, a lot of homeowners being displaced by a big box chain or big box condominium. Also luxury medical space that they do not fit. Whether it's 1, 2, 3 family homes, wherever it is, it's like you need to think twice before you try to identify us. Right? Home foreclosures crisis are getting worse. You see mom and pop stores. All these mom and pop stores are built for it since the early 20th century are getting squeezed out. Thanks to the big box store, big corporation, and these large banks and big giant drugstore that we don't want here. Especially Walmart, but they don't need like benefit because they don't benefit tenants and homeowners that they make it less than over like $29,000 per year. That are terrified of over like low wage workers getting high profits, and that's totally disgrace. The 99% that deserve like a better union and deserve $15 an hour minimum wage to cover up the rent, pay off the mortgage, to help ease the foreclosure crisis, especially neighborhood hit hard by Hurricane Sandy. First it was 9/11, then it hit hard by Sandy. What happened? All these businesses are still built back, some of them are not. So whatever it is, we try to get hard and then listen to us. So whatever it is, we will work harder and we will get better with Austria to get through the process.
Thank you, Mr. Goodridge.
And also, we saw a picture of how the big private corporation and against the 99% movement.
Thank you, Mr. Goodridge.
So remember, rent freeze is the right. Tenant is the 99%.
Thank you, Mr. Goodridge. Margaret Dewsbury, Kurt Thompson, Orlando.
I would like to say a pleasant good night to the board, to the tenants, to the landlords. My name is Margaret Dewsbury. I am a tenant of 1090 East New York for the past 5 years, going close to 6. When I started there, I had a preferential rent. My rent was $880. Now it's $1,010. Next year, my lease is going to be expiring. My neighbor, who rent is a little bit cheaper than mine, went up to $1,267. He called the landlord. He was like, we can do nothing better than $65 off. Now, I know mine is coming. I am a single parent. I have a teenager. My daughter's name is on my lease. I heard a landlord talking about they have a lot of people. It's just me and her. I'm a nanny. I push shoulder every day. I work hard. And I think it's ridiculous that they want to raise the rent so high. Where am I going to go? I am an immigrant. I came here for a better life. My money don't go home. It's in the rent. When I pay the cable bill, I can't pay my light bill. It's like that. So I'm here to say a rent freeze is okay, it's good. But if they're going to decide to raise it, at least a little bit, because I don't refuse a job. I work hard. I've never been out of a job. I don't ask the government to pay my rent. I don't do that because I feel if you're able-bodied, you should work. That's what I do. And I think it's totally fair that if it's going to raise at least a little bit, that people could afford to pay the rent. A lot of people is getting pushed out. It's zero. But at least if they're going to Do it, raise it a little bit. I have 10, no, I am being realistic. I'm being realistic in the fact that if they're going to raise it, at least a little bit, because we know even though we say we want it, we don't always get it. So being realistic is a little bit is better than a lot. And a lot of tenants, the doors is not working. The building is dirty. They have people coming down in the basement at night smoking, having sex, whatever. Sorry, the kids are here, but I'm just saying what I see. It's hard. They sell our building without even informing us after we got a letter under the door. When you call, sometimes you don't get nobody. You can't even go to the office to talk to somebody. Who am I dealing with?
Thank you so much,
It's crazy.
Mrs. Berry. Thank you for sharing your story.